Nice.
Huh? I'm getting better at that.
So, dude,
Yeah.
I guess it's a bit of a downer to start off with, but I mean, there's some new comic news that was revealed to us last night.
Yes, last night, I think we had just finished or wrapped up some filming of some extra clips and just did a quick catch up on social media, only to discover that Dennis O'Neill, or Denny O'Neill, as he was known in the industry, sadly passed away, I think at the age of 81.
Good life, dude.
Yeah.
81's a good way.
Great.
I mean that with all respect,
100%. I am sad. I'll be honest, I didn't know a lot about Denny O'Neill's comics initially when I got into the industry back in the 80s, 90s. And I actually started to fall in love with him and a few other creators when I watched, was a documentary called Secret Origin, the kind of origin story of DC Comics. A pretty old documentary, and it was actually narrated by Ryan Reynolds. And it was done soon after he was the Green Lantern. So he was quite relevant, popular, and he was the overall narration of it. And I must say, he does an amazing job of narrating this story. It's still, to this day, one of my favorite comic book documentaries out there. And in that, I got to see and know and learn about guys like Denny O'Neill. Like, they go through some of the guys that originally started DC. When you talk about you talk about Bob Kane and them, who started Batman, Schuster and Siegel, who started Superman, Marsden with Wonder Woman, and they go through like that era, and then they segue quite nicely into sort of the Silver Age, where you had this new run of artists and writers coming in that, for the first time, were fans of comics and of the characters. Denny O'Neill being one of them as well. And with that, Denny O'Neill was just a natural, like whenever you see old photos of him, long hair, counterculture, anti-establishment kind of person. And then I think that did carry through to a lot of his comics. He actually even started at Marvel first. Got his first kind of gig there, writing on a few titles. After that, he jumped across to DC to do some stuff. And when I say do some stuff, he had some epic things that he did. He was the main guy who kind of restarted Wonder Woman with George Perez and all of that stuff. And in the documentary, he actually mentioned that there was an era where he effed Wonder Woman up big time. It was proper in the whole women's liberation movement. And Gloria Steinem was like one of the big poster women for this. And she just like wrote this scathing article about how Denny O'Neill actually she didn't mention Denny O'Neill in the article, but she just mentioned the current team didn't get Wonder Woman, and he thought he was being totally pro the movement by writing Wonder Woman. What he did was he depowered her, made her almost like an everyday woman, and she was on this hunt to try and find or reestablish or find power in other ways. And she doesn't go back to Themyscira. You think that's where the first go to. No, she finds a white male old guy that he named I Ching, and he starts teaching her Eastern philosophies and stuff like that. And then Gloria Steinem was just like, really? You took the one most powerful woman character in the DCU, and you just strip her of her powers and then make a white male her instructor to
Yeah, that's rough, dude.
And he says in the article, he's like, I fluffed that up, sorry, my apologies. He thought he was doing good. Oops. But he also, like the epic run on the Question. We were talking about the Question recently, and some of those issues I have. Denny O'Neill, one of the greatest single issues that I'm still hunting for is the Question #1, written by Denny O'Neill. So he did some great things, man. And then he reinvigorated Batman. It was just after the Adam West sort of 60s era Batman cartoon, or not cartoon show, but TV show that everyone loved. That really took, kind of parodied Batman in a way, the spoof with all the stuff. And O'Neill came on board with Neil Adams, the artist. And they said, no, we're going to get Batman back to what Batman should be. And that's some famous, they brought the Joker back. He hadn't been in comics for a long, long time. There's that famous Joker cover. We'll flash it up on the screen where Joker's holding that playing card and Batman's strapped to it.
Oh, yeah.
That was Neil Adams' art, but that was that story that him and Denny O'Neil wrote to get him back.
Okay, wow.
Denny O'Neil created Ra's al Ghul. So all the
Nice.
stuff that we have with Talia, Raz, even Damien, I suppose, as an
Yeah.
offshoot, that obviously inspired Grant Morrison, all of those comics. So heavy influential guy. And then in the second half of his career, he moved to becoming an editor-in-chief at both Marvel at one stage and DC too. In fact, before he retired, his last run was he was in charge of the entire Batman family string of books that the likes of, I think, Morrison and all that were writing, and he was the overall
Wow.
editor. Yeah, so
It's amazing, dude.
it is, and kudos to him, hats off to him, and our sympathies not only to his family and loved ones, but just to the comic industry in general. A real loss.
It's just sad, dude. Like, I know this is not comic specific, but I wonder what the next generation is going to look like because we're losing all these legends. I mean, like, there's a list
Yeah.
that just goes on and on and on of all these, like, and love them or hate them, but I mean, like, that defined music and comics. And look, comics, we sort of lucky. We've got a lot of young, I say young, but I mean, relative to, like, we've got John's, Grant Morrison,
Morrison's not that young.
No, but I mean, he's not in his 80s. Do you get what I like?
No, totally.
So
Yeah,
that's
they've
what I
still got
mean
some-
by young. Like
Still got some years in them, so to speak.
But I mean, even what's his name? That done absolute carnage.
Oh, Donny Cates.
Donny Cates. I mean, he's a young dude. So we've got a lot of promise in that. But I think in terms of like rock stars, like people that will always be legends.
Sure.
And I don't use the word rock star in just music terms. I mean in everything. Like like Alan Moore, Gaiman, all of them are always going to be rock stars, so to speak. And then there's the music thing, where there's so many legends that we've lost.
Totally.
Like last year and
And the funny thing is, it's maybe it's a blessing for us in a way, but when you look at the rock star kind of thing, there's all of them will tell you very few bands start young and make it all the way to like Rolling Stones level longevity, Iron Maiden level longevity, where the guys are like in their 80s and still rocking, because especially the touring, I think, takes it out of those guys. The traveling all around the world, night after night shows. I think it takes a special kind of person to keep that longevity right through. Whereas in comics, writers can write. As soon as you have an idea, there it goes into a script. Someone will draw it. I know artists have some issues sometimes with joints and carpal tunnel and all kinds of stuff like that. So I know a lot of artists that dial things down or try and find ways to keep this going so that they can still draw. Some of them,
I can imagine.
yeah, some of them maybe go the digital route now with tablets. I mean, I look at McFarlane and what he's doing with tablets, where he can get some very cool effects in the drawing programs that he's using that aren't reliant on how hard he's pressing with a pencil or anything like that. He can define it through the software.
Yeah, but it's interesting you bring that up, dude, because I've got conflicting feelings. I'm going to use music again as a bit of an example, but you get all these old school guys and in comics who they had to invent the wheel, so to speak. They created something. Like you said, there was no fans that came after them and then redefined things.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, in a rock band, like guys would just go, I want this to sound really edgy, so let me just scream. Okay. But the problem is then over time, they'd wreck their vocal cords. And then,
Sure.
but there's something rock and roll about that. That was
totally.
so edgy. But
Well, I look at like Brian Johnson from AC/DC, Axl Rose for Guns N' Roses. I mean, the gravel and stuff that they were getting, not sustainable for too long. But Lemmy from Motorhead.
But here's the thing, dude, is like now over time, as with everything in life, people learn technologies, they do studies, and I mean, I've even seen it. There's vocal techniques that you can non-destructively use to scream and stuff like that.
True, yeah.
And it does take the edge out of it when you're practicing screaming. That's cute, But if you take all that ego out of it, it's like, wait, so someone can scream the same, even better, and sustain it and not wreck themselves?
You know who we should get in for that is my friend RJ Benjamin. I mean, he's an accomplished vocal teacher. Maybe one day what we should do is diverge into a little bit of like music, musical tastes from both of our sides, and maybe have someone like him in studio with us to just comment on Exactly that. Voice.
Yeah, because I mean, I know
longevity.
the basics, dude, but I mean, I'm sure he knows a lot about it in more way depth. But you know, the reason I use it examples, I'm interested to see, as silly as it sounds,
Yeah.
you know, with comics, you know, it's like maybe the new writers now know they should do wrist exercises. It's cheesy as it sounds to,
Possible.
you know, to because they've seen what's happened to other people, and it sounds really silly and weird, but. I think that just the more we talk about this, the more or people do, the more it normalizes stuff. Be like, oh, okay, so you're not wrecking your wrist because it makes your money.
Well, dude, for me, I mean, if I was a writer in comic books, I honestly believe that 50% of what I would be doing would be through proper, comprehensive dictation software, i.e., I talk to the phone or to the computer. It's transcribing what I'm saying. Just get the idea out, flush it out, etc. Look at it, maybe think of something else, go to a certain paragraph, expand on it, but talking to the computer for the most part of it, and then going through and refining the edit, typing a few extra things. So yeah, for a writer, I think that technology in particular in that regard would help a lot. And yeah, the artists, I think, yeah, there's probably all kinds of, like you're saying, vocal exercise. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these guys look at finger exercises they can do. I mean, I know I've got a good friend, Dr. Wayne Borowski, who's a chiropractor. And right from when Wayne first qualified, he was telling me that it was a twofold process for him. He was not only trying to do daily exercises, and he gave me a few examples, like what you would do is you wet a towel, bath towel, face towel, whatever you want, and you sit and you crumple it, try to wring it out, and then open it up again, and then wring it out again. And that wringing process strengthens your muscles here and your finger joints. And he would do a certain amount of those every single day to keep his hands and fingers nimble but strong. And on the other side, he was looking at everyday things that he could use. If he put like a squash ball on the end of like a brush handle, could he use that to work in certain joints and stuff like that, so he wouldn't be reliant on his thumb for that kind of pressure and stuff? So I wouldn't be surprised if guys in the draw.
That's exactly what I'm saying, dude. That's the beautiful thing about the one good thing about technology and stuff and research is learning all these things. I mean, dude, for the longest time, there was this really abusive culture in the sound engineering thing where your ears just got used to it. And it's like your ears.
Oh, you mean you'd be somewhere live?
Repetitive, loud, damaging. And the studies came out a long time ago where it's like, no, your ears don't get used to it. They just get wrecked.
Right.
And
you can't repair that, can you?
You can't. Once you look, maybe if you go for an operation, have a whole freaking eardrum replaced, I don't know. But they say once you lose a frequency, you can never hear it again, period.
Really?
And
it's all gone, Pete Tong.
Yeah, dude. And these guys live with tinnitus, that constant ringing, and they don't understand. And the worst part is you got, obviously the culture of just work is you work your way up. So you work your way up, right? So you start in live sound,
yes,
and then you work your way to studio, which is like, got this sort of like, oh, now he's experienced. But the ironic thing is they get deaf first to go to studio where they need their ears the most. And it's like, well, wait, what?
Yeah, the reverse of what you should be doing, I suppose.
And again, so this is all started coming out over time, and people are wising up. And
but on that note, though, dude, do you find, I'm going to lean heavily in your experience, your realm here, modern day sound editing programs, do you find that you're not as dependent on your ears so much as you can see visual waves and things like that? And just as experience has come in, just by looking at a wave pattern, things that you need to do or edit, and then your ears almost like the quality check to stuff you're doing.
So it's a bit of both, dude. That is, audio guys talk about this a lot. The problem is that we've like come with all these programs and they're very visually stimulating, and you're turning the knob and you're like, I should be doing that. And you do it without even thinking that, so it's like, well, this pro dude said I must put this plugin on, and you put it on and you hope it sounds better. But then you stop listening. It's weird. It sounds stupid.
Right.
But because visually you're doing what you think you should do, people forget what you actually use, the quality thing. They go, the visually, it says it's an exact loudness, it's peaking where it needs to be and all that. So it should be right. And it's like you're forgetting the golden rule. Audio is about a listening experience.
For sure.
So it's a a thing that you can get trapped in very quickly.
I would imagine if I was doing it, I would try and do what you're saying. You apply it, and then almost not look at the visual component and just listen to that stretch or section. Even take the filter off again, re-listen to it, and make those kinds of comparisons. Kind of like what I want to do with the Snyder Cut is watch the one, watch the other, kind of make my decision based on A versus B, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's exactly, dude. I think finding a balance of both would be ideal. But yeah,
but you can't do that in sex. Like, I want to do this, and then let's just go back and do it again. You know, at my age, we just the second round is not as easy as the first.
Talk about you mentioned Snyder Cut, man.
I thought you were going to say talk about sex. I thought we were going to seriously diverge.
No, but I'm super stoked for that, dude.
I know you mention it every time.
Yeah, like, but interestingly, talking about that, dude, I don't know if you're keen to dive in, but like, I don't know if you saw there's some new like Batman news with the
I'll be honest,
sparkly dude, what's his name?
Robert Pattinson.
And I'm okay with him, but
dude, you know what I've seen, and maybe it's wrong, but I've seen one or two just pictures of him in suit, and I'm so whelmed, not underwhelmed, not overwhelmed, just whelmed. He doesn't fill out the suit like some of the predecessors have.
For sure.
Again, I'm not even the biggest Bale fan, but I've rewatched a lot of those Batmans, and I'm okay with Bale. I'm okay with the look, the aesthetic, not how he spoke, but just it looked okay for me. I rewatched the original Keaton one, and man, he looked Batmanish.
Yeah.
Fucking Affleck was probably the biggest looking one out of all of them. He looked like an absolute tank. And I look at Patterson and I'm like,
Yeah, they are doing, I mean, and I know that's an excuse, but they are doing Batman coming up. So, it's justified that he's small. And they allegedly, for the first time, are going to lean way more into the detective side. So I'm cautiously optimistic. But what's interesting is already, again, I don't want to get my hopes up because Batfleck had a trilogy on the cards and then that just fell to pieces. But apparently Matt Reeves, which is the director of this new film, it's also a trilogy. And they're saying that there's already talks of how they're going to gradually bring the Joker in, which I've got mixed feelings on, which is why I want to bring it up because I actually want to give you homework to watch Joaquin Phoenix's Joker.
I probably will.
But having said that, there's just so many Jokers, which is because now you've got the Suicide Squad cut. They're talking about releasing more cut because of the Snyder cut.
Is there going to be a Suicide cut?
They're pushing, the director's pushing for it now, but I would be keen to see more Jared Leto footage just to see what Jared Leto actually did.
Sure.
So I'd be sort of open to it, but now they're going to potentially recast another Joker, and the rumors, but these are fan cast rumors, is Johnny Depp. Now, again, Johnny Depp to me is one of those people where he could absolutely knock it out the park, or it could be...
Or you could just phone it in kind of scenario.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll just take the paycheck and...
So it's difficult, dude.
But it depends. If we have Johnny Depp unaffected by Amber Heard, we could get a decent Joker, or
maybe he'll be like so emotionally wrecked, where he'll like go full on method. It'll be this amazing performance because
could happen.
Did you know pain, and sadly as shitty as it is, it often creates amazing art. So
true. Yeah, and some of the best art came through pain. Just ask Van Gogh.
Yeah. It's dark.
I'm a dark dude, man. Yeah, we've had this conversation several times. For me, Joker-wise, Hamill's Joker, the animated Joker, is still, I don't know, soft spot in my heart for just the voice, the way he brought it through, right the way down to his laugh as the Joker, I think was just amazing. And then there, or close second, is probably, I like Jack Nicholson's Joker. I don't know why. And again, rewatching Keaton Batman, it did for me. I think you share my sentiments on the animated side, but yours is Ledger still, is your...
Well, live action is Ledger, yeah, but animated is Hamill without even a freaking...
It's the same as whatchamacallit is the Batman and always will be. I can't believe I've gone blank on that. Damn it. Okay, it'll come back to me. Shit. But yeah, really, it's my favorite.
Isn't it Kevin Conroy?
Kevin Conroy. Thank you for that. I can't believe I forgot Conroy. Yeah. So I suppose in the animated world, it's probably a bit easier to I don't say easier from the Hamill's portrayal, but just the visual aesthetic. You can do a lot with the cartooning than a physical person probably couldn't.
And also, we've seen generally, for some weird reason, they don't learn the lesson, but it seems like the studios have a lot less to lose on animation, so they let them do their thing.
Yeah. 100%.
But there's so much success, and it's like, don't you see the correlation?
Leave them alone. Let them be. I think you're probably right. If I think about the original Batman, the animated, I think a lot of the stories were around, Bruce Timm and all of them with this idea, okay, guys, go off, do it. Get as dark as you want, because some of those episodes are dark. It's just the whole Harley-Joker relationship dynamic. Bruce Timm, I think he probably toned it down a bit because he knew there was a kid audience, but the adults watching that show see it. It's like, this is dysfunctional. These two are damaged fundamentally. They probably got away with it because do what you want, and probably by the end of the first season, the studio execs go, oh, wow, we've actually got a hit on our hands. Okay, don't mess with it. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep the hit going, so to speak. So, yeah.
I'm just interested to see, dude. I know I've dived back to this, but how DC are going to... I think they're taking one film at a time, but how are they going to fix all of this? Because, there was some side news. They were... Again, this is just fan casting stuff, but it would be cool. They were talking about if they eventually get a Flash movie off the ground and do a kind of their own version of a Flashpoint. If they must bring... Oh, dude, why do I always forget his name? It's...
Which Flash?
No, I'm talking about someone else. I'm talking about who they cast as Thomas Wayne, which is the dad in Supernatural.
Yeah.
He's Negan in Walking Dead.
Yeah, he was a comedian in The Watchmen.
Yeah, so that dude. And they're saying they're bringing him back as Thomas Wayne, Flashpoint style, like, evil Batman.
Yes.
And they've even made, like, fan suits out of him and stuff, and it looks incredible, so...
Hang on, it's going to annoy me. I know exactly who it is, and it's on the tip of my tongue, and I'm going to see the name, and then I'm going to punch myself in the face. Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Him, yes. Jeffrey.
But yeah, so there's a lot of... But, so that could also be cool.
Be awesome if he came back as that, if they delved into that whole story, because, for me, that's... I like the Elseworlds kind of takes on things, and that Joker in that universe that's a tragic and twisted tale with the mother losing her mind and becoming the Joker.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how much they'll borrow and how much they'll change and stuff. But I'm interested, dude, because also if you look at it, it sounds... I don't know if you saw the video that was directed at Kevin Smith from Ben Affleck. He basically was talking about how he promotes the Snyder Cut, and he's really stoked that the fans made this happen.
Yeah.
And he seems to be in a more positive place. I don't know if we've talked about this, dude, but there's a combination of things that happened with Ben Affleck, and what a lot of people don't like to talk about is apparently, dude, he had to check himself into rehab because of the whole pressure and then the negative thing. And it also was because, as far as I know, he was directing, producing, and acting. And he was trying to do a trilogy, which is insanity. So there's a small little hope of glimmer in me that goes, he comes back for Snyder reshoots, which is happening, it's confirmed.
And inspires him to...
And then he goes, I don't need to direct, I don't need to produce, just let me act. Yeah. And then he stays as Batman, and they find a more organic way to fade him out, because he is Batman, end of the road, Frank Miller style, but they at least give him a fitting, like, walk away kind of thing, that the continuity works and stuff.
And a more relevant role than what he had at least in the...
Yeah, 100%, dude.
Yeah, agreed.
So, if you liked what Mark and I were talking about here, or just like our content in general,
please like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification for more videos.
And do us a favor and find us on the social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram.
See you in the next video.